For thousands of years, a people has gone through empires, wars, exiles, persecutions, and yet, it still exists. This people is Israel.
Welcome to our channel, JM Impact Plus, and stay until the end because we are about to embark on a very exciting and enriching spiritual journey.
Before it was a nation, before it was a kingdom, before it was a people, Israel begins with just one person, a man called to leave everything he knew to walk with God. Today, we go back to the root, to the beginning, to the call that changed everything. To truly understand how important and special the story of Israel is, we need to go back in time. We need to dive into the world where it all began. It was a world that was grand and very different from ours. A world where spiritual beliefs were a part of everything, but in a way that would seem messy and confusing to us today. Let's jump back 4,000 years. We're around 2000 BC, right in the middle of the Bronze Age. Humans weren't just starting out anymore. Powerful civilizations had already grown, leaving a huge mark on history. The Earth at that time was ruled by empires and cultures that had reached amazing levels of advancement. First, there was Mesopotamia, the land between the two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This was where writing, laws, and huge city-states like Ur and Babylon were born. Here, life was shaped by farming seasons and the rules of powerful kings. Further west, Egypt stretched out, an ancient empire brought together by the Nile River. Under the pharaohs, who were seen as gods on earth, this civilization built massive pyramids and learned a lot about the afterlife, trying to find forever in stone and papyrus. And between these two giants was the land of Canaan, a place where many trade routes crossed. Lots of kingdoms and city-states thrived there. It was a broken-up world, a mix of people and cultures that would become the setting for our story. But what all these civilizations had in common, their spiritual operating system, was polytheism. Everywhere, people worshipped dozens, sometimes hundreds, of gods. Every city, every job, every family had its own gods to protect them. There were the big cosmic gods, the sun god, Ra in Egypt, or Shamash in Mesopotamia, the moon god, the storm god, like Baal in Canaan, or the god of wisdom like Thoth. But there were also countless local gods tied to rivers, mountains, fertile fields, birth, and death. Every natural event, from a river's helpful flood to a terrible storm, was seen as the action of a god. The world was like a stage where divine forces, often moody and uncaring about humans, fought each other. Religion was mostly a way to calm them down, to get their kindness through rituals, offerings, and sacrifices. In this busy spiritual world, three basic ideas that seem obvious to us today were completely missing. First, no one believed in one God, who created everything that exists. The idea that a single will, a single mind, was behind the entire universe was a wild thought, impossible to imagine at that time. Second, no one knew a personal God. Gods were cosmic forces or national leaders. People feared them, served them, but didn't have a close relationship with them. The idea that a god could know each person's name, care about their joys and sorrows, was a foreign concept. Finally, and maybe most importantly, no one talked about a god whose very nature was love. The stories of that time were full of jealous, violent, tricky gods, who acted out of self-interest or anger. Divine love, unconditional and saving, was not part of their religious language. So, the world was very religious, but it was spiritually lost, sailing without a compass in an ocean of conflicting gods. Humanity was searching for the divine, but it was looking in nature, in idols of wood and stone, in complicated rituals, without ever finding an answer to the deep longing in its heart. It's exactly in this mixed-up world, in this religious chaos, that a completely new call is about to be heard. A call that won't come from a big empire, but from the heart of an ordinary man. A call that will start a spiritual revolution and change the course of human history forever. To understand the story of Israel, we need to go way back in time, long before Moses or King David. Our journey takes us to Mesopotamia, to one of the oldest and biggest cities in the world, the city of Ur. It's here that we meet a man named Abram. Abram lived in Ur, a bustling city, a hub for trade and ideas. Located on the fertile banks of the Euphrates, the city was a center of civilization, famous for its huge buildings, its knowledge of astronomy, and its complex writing systems. It was a rich, advanced place, a real superpower of its time. But this fancy culture hid a deep spiritual truth. The city was also full of idol worship. The whole lives of the people in Ur revolved around worshipping many gods and goddesses. In the middle of the city stood a giant ziggurat, a step tower dedicated to the moon god Nana, the city's main god. Abram was no stranger to these practices. He was born and grew up in this culture. The Bible even says that his own family, including his father Terah, worshipped other gods. This is what we read in the book of Joshua, chapter 24. Idol worship wasn't just around him, it was in his home, in his family history. So, it's really important to understand who Abram was at that time. Abram wasn't some super believer searching for the true God in a world full of false gods. He wasn't a prophet already getting messages from God. He wasn't a perfect example of goodness, standing out from everyone else. He was just a regular guy, living in his time, and that's exactly where the story changes. Because it wasn't Abram who found God. It was God who went looking for him. In the middle of the spiritual darkness of Ur, in an idol-worshipping family, God chose to show himself to this man. And then, in a moment that would change the course of human history, God speaks.
Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. Genesis 12:1.
This is a huge, almost unbelievable call. God isn't just asking him to change his religion. He's asking him to give up everything, his safe home, his cultural identity, and his closest family ties. It's a call that demands huge faith, incredible courage, and a complete break from everything he's ever known. He has to leave what's certain for what's uncertain, what's visible for what's invisible, trusting only in the word of a God he's just starting to get to know. But most importantly, and this is the main point of this whole story, this call, this act of faith from an ordinary man responding to an extraordinary God, would become the starting point not just for one family, but for the whole nation of Israel, and through them, for God's plan for the entire world. God then makes a promise that seems impossible.
I will make you into a great nation.
A great nation? Abram is 75 years old. His wife Sarai cannot have children. Humanly speaking, it's impossible. Statistically, it's impossible. Scientifically, it's impossible. But spiritually, that's where everything begins. Israel wasn't born from human strength. Israel was born from a miracle. That's why this people is still standing today. God adds,
I will bless you, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.
Israel is not an ordinary people. They are the people of a universal promise. Abram does something amazing. He leaves without knowing where he's going. This is the first example of biblical faith. Genesis 12 simply says, he left. No GPS, no map, no explanation. Just a word from God. The story of Israel begins with a man who walks by faith and not by sight. And this detail is important. The nation of Israel isn't built on military might or political power, but on a divine promise, a word of trust. Now, let's take a moment to think about what this story means for us today, because beyond the historical facts, there's a deep spiritual truth, a truth that can change our own faith. Here's the most amazing truth, one that goes against all human logic. The people of Israel should never have existed. Think about it. In the big show of ancient history, nations came and went like waves in the ocean. Powerful empires, with their strong armies and leading cultures, would take over or wipe out smaller peoples. It was the law of the jungle, a rule that was almost everywhere. No historian, if they had seen this small wandering group in Mesopotamia, no military leader, no expert in populations would have bet for a second on its long-term survival. Statistically, it was impossible. And yet, the story of Israel is a series of impossible things that were overcome. The biggest empires in the world teamed up against it. The Egyptians, at the peak of their power, tried to end it at its start with slavery and mass killings, by ordering the death of all baby boys. Later, the Babylonians tried to destroy it by tearing down Jerusalem, burning Solomon's temple, and sending the nation's leaders away into exile, trying to erase its identity. Then the Romans, rulers of the world, crushed the Jewish rebellions, destroyed the Second Temple, and scattered its people to the far corners of their huge empire, a plan meant to make the Jewish people disappear forever. And yet, after thousands of years of being hurt, sent away, and attempts to wipe them out, Israel still exists. Its language, its way of life, and its faith have lived on. It's a historical miracle, unlike any other. Why? Because Israel is living proof that God keeps His promises. Every sunrise over Jerusalem is a reminder that God's word lasts longer than empires made of stone and steel. And that's where this old story connects with our modern lives. If God was able to keep a whole people safe for 4,000 years, despite angry empires and the rules of history, don't you think He can surely keep you safe in the middle of the tough time you're going through? Your sickness, your money problems, your worries, your broken relationships. All of these might seem as big as a scary empire. But Israel's beginning and survival are a living testament, etched in time. When God decides to start something, when He makes a promise, absolutely nothing, and no one can stop it. His promise to Abraham became a nation. His promise to you can become your victory. Take 2 minutes, write in your phone or on a piece of paper, one situation you're trying to control too much, and that you will give over to God. Like Abram, like Israel, like those who walk by faith. The story of the people of Israel doesn't start with an army. It doesn't start with a nation. It doesn't start with a victory. It starts with a promise, a word from God, and a man who says, "Yes, Lord." If this video spoke to you, write in the comments, "God keeps His promises." And subscribe to follow Chapter 2, The Impossible Promise, the birth of Isaac. If you learned something today, feel free to like. For more stories, subscribe and share the video. Thanks for watching and see you soon for a new video.